Well, hello there, and welcome to episode 31 of the Classic Rock podcast. For those about to pod, we salute you. In this episode, we look back at 2013 in my year in rock. We have a look at the most recent rock news. We also dig around for hidden gems, and we dissect rock cliches. So without further ado, here he is, in person, sitting 4 feet away from me, as opposed to 400 miles away. It's Brian Maley, everyone.
Hello, Matthew.
Hello.
I can see you.
And I can see you too, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's because we're 4 feet apart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How are you, mate?
I'm doing all right.
Good weekend?
It's been all right, yeah. Yeah, I've enjoyed Edinburgh. Came up yesterday, and yeah, it's good.
Good. You brought good weather with you as well, too.
Well, you're welcome. Yeah, I brought sunny southern weather.
Yeah.
That's been good. That's a bit weird, isn't it? In the same room.
I know.
We've done 30 episodes over Zoom. And
It's the first time I've worn a pair of jeans for a podcast.
yeah, let's not go into that. Thank you very much. Oh my goodness. No, we've dressed up especially.
With our merch, I'm wearing our merchandise t-shirts.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Oh, that's very good. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, my little face poking out.
So why were you in Edinburgh, Matthew? Apart from 400 miles to record our podcast.
It's a good question, actually. No, we came to see a gig, didn't we?
We did. We went to see a
came
gig.
to see you, primarily, and to go to a gig.
But we'll get to gigs later, won't we?
Yes, we will. So, news time, Brian. What has caught your eye in the news?
Tap are back. The tap right again. Set your amplifiers for 11. Spinal Tap 2 will be released 2024.
That's right.
To mark the 40th anniversary. I feel old. The 40th anniversary of the first film.
That's right.
So that'll be excellent. Most excellent.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's Wayne's World, not
Oh,
Spinal
okay.
Tap.
Hello, Cleveland.
It's coming out on the actual day.
Yeah.
It's the 40. I think it's very specific, isn't it? It's putting yourself under pressure, isn't it?
It really is, yeah.
But anyway, it should be good. Well, I hope it's going to be good. Not all sequels are good, of course. Some of them miss the mark. Others are good. I mean, Wayne's World 2 is good. Let's say, just using that as an example, not the greatest example, but you know. So we'll see. Yeah, it should be exciting. So the premise of the film is something to do with a contract that's been found by the widow of the manager of the band, which basically says that Spinal Tap have got to do one more gig.
They've got to get back together again.
Otherwise, I don't know what happens. But yeah, so it should be interesting.
And we're being told that Rob Reiner, who's back directing the movie, is Marty DeBurgi.
Marty DeBurgi, of course, yeah.
And there's going to be lots of special guests. And when you think of the album that they recorded, which, do you remember the last time they did? The last time that they played live, I remember they played the Freddie Mercury tribute.
They did.
And the album that was it Break
Like the Wind.
Break Like the Wind. And they had Steve Vai, Brian May, everybody turned up on the album. So I'm expecting lots of guest artists.
Yeah. People will be queuing up to be part of it.
Ozzy
will be in it. Ozzy actually thinks it's based on him. I was reading Mick Wall's book about Black Sabbath, and when Ozzy saw, this is true actually, when Ozzy saw the original Spinal Tap, he actually thought it was a documentary, and he thought it was kind of based on his life of sorts. So anyway, we shall see how that goes.
And news for you?
Yeah. Well, the Choir Boys feud rumbles on. So this is taking an interesting turn, actually. So, as we discussed, I think, a couple of episodes ago, Spike from the Choir Boys, one of the founding members of the Choir Boys, has been fired in fairly kind of acrimonious circumstances.
Unceremoniously.
Yeah, indeed. And he started to put together, he started to reform the original Choir Boys, basically. With Guy Bailey and Nigel Mogg, who were in the original band back in the late 80s, early 90s. So it's an interesting development. So you've got the kind of the new existing choir boys and the reformed original choir boys. I don't know, it's getting very confusing. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but it's quite interesting to watch it unfold.
Somebody has to have the name Choir Boys.
Exactly. I mean,
that'll be the interesting.
Yeah, the new choir boys, the original choir boys, and
Spike's Choir Boys.
Exactly. We'll see. Yeah, because there was always that kind of that trademark around names. I remember when basically Sharon Osbourne owns the. This comes from that book again I read recently. Sharon Osbourne owns the rights to the Black Sabbath name. So when Heaven and Hell, when Roddy Dio got back with Tony Iommi and Geezer, and Carmine Appice, I think it was.
Vinny Appice.
Was it? Oh, it was Vinny, yes. They weren't able to call themselves Black Sabbath. They had to call themselves, obviously, they chose Heaven and Hell. Anyway, we digress. So, yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah. And Metallica have got...
Oh, I love this story.
Metallica have officially got their youngest ever fan. I was reading earlier today that a mega uber fan of Metallica in Brazil, 39 weeks pregnant, went to see Metallica, and she gave birth to her son. Can you guess the name of her son?
Well, it's got to be James Robert Lars Kirk. It's got to be.
Close.
Okay.
Luan.
Okay. Oh, I was close.
Luan.
Yeah.
So she gave birth to as she said herself, to the music of Enter Sandman.
Yeah.
Bonkers.
It's a bit. I mean, it's 39 weeks pregnant. I mean, that is real commitment, isn't it? You know, you're virtually about to give birth. Well, she did give birth.
Yeah.
But she decided, instead of taking it easy at home, putting her feet up, as they say, she decided to go to a Metallica gig, which I'm quite surprised about, frankly. But it worked out okay in the end.
Yeah, mum and boy are doing very, very, very well.
As
Pictures on social media and Instagram, etc.
Yeah, indeed. Another thing that's caught my eye recently, Brian, is a documentary about the late Bon Scott. It's to celebrate what would have been his 75th birthday, and it's called On the Brink. Now, it's worth watching. It's very interesting in that it charts his life story, basically, from when he moved to Australia as a young lad through to his untimely death in 1980. So, I would recommend everyone to check it out. It's nicely done. It's an introduction by Brian Johnson, the current singer of AC/DC, which is quite nice tribute to the great man. And it's a good watch. His brother's in it. His brother Derek makes an appearance, which kind of gives it some gravitas, I think.
I must admit, having lived in Scotland as long as I have, we must go to Bonfest at some point up in Kirriemuir.
Yeah.
And maybe at least go and see the statue that's there. But it'll be interesting. And I think we've talked on the podcast about Back in Black and the gazillions of album sales for Back in Black. But when you go back to the Bon era, there'll be lots of AC/DC fans who that's the era that they like. Highway to Hell. Highway to Hell as an album is absolutely class. So yeah, it's good to see Bon getting the biopic treatment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And somebody else who would have been celebrating their 80th birthday this year, Ronnie James Dio. And it's in July of this year. It seems to be all the classic albums. Obviously, Metallica had the Black Album and they remastered and brought out a box set. So they're bringing out a super deluxe version of the Dio debut album, Holy Diver. It's going to be remastered, live cuts as well too. It's going to come out in July in conjunction or to commemorate Ronnie's 80th birthday, which would be great.
Yeah.
And even looking at the set list for the show in 1983, it's just peppered with... It's actually a lot of Holy Diver and some classic Black Sabbath era material as well too, and a little bit of the Rainbow stuff. Just superb stuff in 1983, and Ronnie was just at the peak of his powers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Look forward to that. Okay, Anything else, Brian?
The only thing that I noticed, we've seen a lot of bands that have fallen foul to rescheduling because of band members falling foul and catching COVID. And I have to say, dear old Pearl Jam, who've desperately been trying for the last probably 2 years to get back out and tour to promote Gigaton, their last album, which is a great album. Matt Cameron, formerly of Soundgarden and now of Pearl Jam, came down with COVID, and the band soldiered on with Josh Klinghoffer.
Good name.
Yep.
Top name.
Who's the former guitarist in the Red Hot Chili Pepper, who's now the touring guitarist in Pearl Jam. So he was on drums. They enlisted Dave Cruzen, who's their original drummer. They even got a college student out of the audience to play drums as well too. So Pearl Jam were not letting COVID spoil their shows at I think it was the Oakland Coliseum, and everything was going well, and they were fighting on through. And then poor Jeff Emmett, the bass player in Pearl Jam, came down with COVID. So unfortunately, they've had to cancel a couple of the shows in the tour, and will be rescheduled. But it was great to see Pearl Jam trying to power on through with all of the challenges of COVID.
Yeah.
So that's the final thing in news for me.
Very good. Very good indeed. So recently we've been to a few gigs between us,
We have indeed.
including last night.
It was great last night, wasn't he?
Geoff Tate.
Yeah.
So last night we went to see Geoff Tate, who was the singer in Queensrÿche. Now he's in a tiny little club,
Bannerman's.
a place called Bannerman's in Edinburgh. Must have been, 200 people there?
If that.
Yeah.
Sold out.
It was sold out.
Yeah.
And great show. Fantastic show. 2 hours, basically. Did 2 albums, Empire and Rage for Order.
That's correct, yes.
Great stuff. It was really good. I mean, was never the biggest Queensrÿche fan. I know the hits, as it were. Tremendous gig.
He was, and the young band that he had with him as well too. Couple of Glaswegians, a young American guy, a young fella from Kilkenny in Ireland.
True. Yeah. One of your own.
One of our own. Very, very, very accomplished band, and Geoff was. It was a small club venue. Quite a lot of sequencing and keyboards and backing tracks used to complement. Because for anybody who knows the Empire album and Rage for Order, Queensrÿche always had a very symphonic sound live. And he did the material justice. And as you say, Matt, he came out and blasted through Rage for Order, took a short break, and then came out and did Empire, which obviously has got Best I Can, Silent Lucidity, belted them all out, and quite a funny guy as well too. He was connecting with the audience, and there was a couple of times I think you and I were looking at each other going, Geoff Tate sold out, in their peak of their powers, Grammy Awards, selling out arenas in America, and here he was playing in the club. And do you know what? Thoroughly and enjoying himself. He's had a week in Scotland and he's just loving it.
Yeah.
It's great to see him.
Yeah, he did. It did seem like he was on good form, didn't he?
Yeah. And
as he said, living the dream, playing in Bannerman's in Edinburgh. Tell you one thing I noticed though, because I've never been to a gig in Scotland before. The audience were kind of heckling the singer. So normally I go and watch gigs in London or in that sort of part of the world, and everyone's quite reverential. If someone's doing some in between song chat or a little monologue, then everyone sort of stands listening and all the rest of it. In Scotland, people were shouting things out.
Yeah.
We can't repeat any of them, unfortunately. But some of it was quite funny. And it's like, don't let the poor guy do his little spiel. He does a little story about
grocery
shopping, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And some guy shouted out that it was something to do with supermarket sweep. Dale Winton.
How would you get the connection between the Grammy Award winning Silent Lucidity and Dale Winton?
I know. I know. Yeah, that's quite noticeable. Bantering and heckling the singer. But yeah, he was good.
But we're off to.
Tremendous.
Obviously, we've all committed as the 200 people in the audience last night. Geoff has invited us all to Peru, to Machu Picchu.
Yeah.
And we all said yeah.
Well, it's true.
So we're going.
But he's probably invited every other person on that's turned up to his gigs. And we'll come on to that rock and roll kind of cliche stuff later. Because they're all a bit guilty of it. Other gigs recently, I was in Ibiza for a week. My wife and some friends of ours, Matt and Hannah.
Pete Tong?
No, nothing went wrong, or Pete Tong, for that matter. We were there for something called HRH, Hard Rock Hell Road Trip. It was good. Gigs in the evening, and then kind of holidaying during the day. Saw some excellent bands. Really good American band from California called the Mercury Riots. Check them out. A brilliant kind of quirky British band called Black Tree Vultures, who my wife took a particular shine to. The excellent Shez Kane, who has got a real kind of classy 80s sound to her kind of repertoire, let's say. Did a great version of the Electric Drill song by Mr. Big.
Daddy Lover.
Brother Little Boy.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Call yourself a Mr. Big.
I know, I was just going, there we go.
Yeah, which one was that? Yeah, excellent. I mean, it was good fun. I really enjoyed it. And might think about going back. We both went to see the triple bill that's been going around the UK in the last week or so of Whitesnake, Foreigner, and Europe. Mm-hmm. It's tremendous.
Was
absolutely tremendous.
Had to get there early, mind.
Early, yeah, very early. 6:45 Europe were on. That's probably the earliest they've ever been on. They were fantastic. I think it was a good night all round. Enjoy it?
I did. I thought Europe played a very canny set. They focused on quite a lot of their heavier material. War of Kings was certainly in the set in Glasgow, and then they turned in things like Rock the Night and Cherokee and Final Countdown and Superstitious. But Joey got the band going, and what can we say about Kelly Hansen?
Fantastic! What a singer! Kelly Hansen of Foreigner, tremendous, good band. Mick Jones, the founding member of Foreigner, in Foreigner, let's say. Yeah. He joined for the last 2 or 3 songs, which was good.
Yeah.
What a great band, great songs. It's just the greatest hit set, basically.
It was. Yeah, it was Foreigner, and I think Kelly worked the audience well. There was a lot of love and respect between all 3 bands. You know, Joey Tempest was bigging up Foreigner and Whitesnake, and the same with Kelly Hansen. And then when DC hit the stage,
indeed,
with
David Covenants. Yeah, tremendous. Farewell tour for the great man, of course.
Yeah, it's quite emotional.
Yeah. Well, for you,
it was David. I've seen Whitesnake a few times, but the band, just the set that he chose to play, figured around Slide It In and the 1987 album. The band was fantastic. And the new additions to the band as well too. Tanya O'Callaghan.
Oh yeah. She was great.
Tanya was fabulous.
I'm a big fan of hers.
Yes, she was. Her and Joel Hoekstra were there.
Oh yeah, he was there as well. Yeah, fine.
and 2 keyboard players.
I know. Yeah, that's interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, Dino Jelisic, the young Croatian singer who we both love, and he balanced out and supported David's vocals, and I have to say, I thought DC was fantastic. I thought singing wise, he managed it well.
He gave it everything, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah. No, good on him. Yeah, it was a good show.
Yeah.
Good.
And whilst you came all the way up to Scotland for a gig, I, a couple of weeks ago, went all the way down to London to three. There was 3 special nights that Bryan Adams had at the Royal Albert Hall. I only went to 2 nights. Our friends John and Sue went to all 3 nights. They saw all 3. I actually only went to 2 nights. I went to see Bryan Adams perform Into the Fire album and the Waking Up the Neighbours, which was the album he made with Mutt Lange. Bryan was in great form, singing well. To do 3 nights on the bounce as well too. His band were great, and the Royal Albert Hall was just fantastic. The 3rd night was recorded for our live album, live DVD. So look out for me screaming for those about to pod box at the Royal Albert Hall. I'm there.
Did we sponsor a box?
Did I not tell you about that? Check your bank account.
Yeah, well, you do know we haven't got any budget.
Well.
Certainly not for sponsoring a box at the Albert Hall. It's not going to be one of those where they did the recording and then they're going to notice this guy sort of screaming at the top of his voice, "I've seen you 26 times." I like that young lady you mentioned.
No. It was Royal Albert Hall. It was a very...
Yeah, everyone behaved themselves.
Everyone behaved themselves. So that was it, yep.
So they didn't kind of heckle the singer then? They didn't heckle Bryan Adams then?
No.
Good. Pleased to hear it.
So, but good. Yeah, Bryan was good. And he's touring, he's got his new album out and he's touring around the UK right at this moment in time.
So moving on, Bryan. Mm-hmm. So when I was at the Whitesnake gig, I went with a friend of mine, Paul Whelan, and he couldn't help chuckle. I could see his shoulders moving in front of me. He couldn't help chuckle at some of the rock and roll cliches, the rock cliches that were on show at, that night. And it was a bit of a cliche fest.
Was.
I can tell you. Because you had 3 bands with, I don't know, 150 years of kind of experience between them, let's say. And there were a lot of cliches. And it made me think, because we take it all for granted. You know, we've been going to rock gigs for, 40-odd years. And it just made me think that actually, it's littered. And some of them should be put to one side. Put in room 101, I mentioned last time. And a few were on show the other night. And I think my biggest bugbear with gigs is the drum solo. Oh, come on. So 4 of them were on for an hour. And then they still managed to squeeze in a drum and keyboard solo, which I have to say I was a bit disappointed about because, you've got enough songs. Come on, just play a song. But the drum solo. I mean, spectacular as it is, and, people have been doing it for a long time. John Bonham used to do one, of course. Tommy Aldridge did a great one the other night. And, every single drummer has pretty much done one over the years. Neil Peart, of course, used to make a huge spectacle of it. But I just think those days are gone. For the drum solo, play another song.
Yeah, or particularly with the 3 bands that we saw, when you're a support act. So whenever Foreigner were the special guest of the three band bill.
Yeah.
To have a drum solo and the drum keyboard duel, for want of a better word, I'm kind of going, surely it's the headliner should do a drum solo.
Yeah.
And Tommy Aldridge did a drum solo. So we actually that night got 2 drum solos. And you're kind of going, what I would prefer is, if you're going to do a drum solo, tell me when you're doing it. Yeah. Because then I can go and buy some merchandise.
Yeah, it's a good point. Actually, I'm going to nip to the loo or to the bar. So give me a bit of a warning and I'll be off. Trouble is, I think everyone would do the same. The bars would be about 80 deep.
But that would be a good thing, because then they'd stop doing drum solos if everybody left.
Ah, there you go, you see. That's a great plan. Right, we'll put the word around.
Okay.
Everyone go to the bar when the drum solo's on.
Yeah. And
maybe they'll die out. There were a few. I mean, as we said earlier, rock is littered with cliches. And I think it comes down to the fact that it is a theatrical, it's a performance kind of art, of course. Yeah. Both visually and of course musically. Mm-hmm. And, that's why you've got huge stage sets and, people dressing up and, larger than life characters. Uh-huh. And those days, continue. It's not as bad as it used to be. I mean, it used to be, I remember going to gigs back in the 80s, there'd be shirts off and, it'd be all very macho and all the rest of it. I think we've kind of diluted that a little bit over the years, but, you still have the the classic crowd sing-alongs, of course. They can't help but get the audience to clap, which my wife doesn't like. She's like, I'll clap if I want to. I don't want you to tell me to clap.
Or the waving, as you know, one clapping's fine, and I like watching. I like it when we're encouraged to clap in unison. What I find really bizarre is when lead singers and frontmen are trying to get the bands to go side by side with the hands. Because have you ever watched? I know the audience never do it. They never do it properly. Some go left to right, some go right to left, and you're like, just follow the. That's just no waving of hands at rock gigs. I'm sorry. No. And long intros. We will save the names of the band, but there was in that 3-band package that we saw. I was able to leave my seat, go down 2 flights of stairs, mull over what T-shirt I was going to buy, come back up again, sit in my seat, and they were still playing the song that I had been. Big long intros. No.
Yeah. I know some of these things are essential. I mean, if you think about it, before a band even comes on, we go through the whole process of, you see roadies dressed in black, scurrying here, there, and everywhere, and put the water out and the towels. You've got to have towels, of course, and sellotaping the set lists to the front of the stage, so everyone knows what songs they're playing or which town they're in. Of course. And of course,
which city is the city of love?
Well, indeed, yes. So David Coverdale, famously, so we both saw him this week, and he asked the question, is London still the city of love? At least he did in London, of course, and I'm sure in Glasgow he asked.
Glasgow was obviously as well was the city of love.
And what is this? I always thought Paris was the city
I did as well.
Yeah. Or is it Rome? Anyway, it's not, I mean... everywhere he goes, he asks if it's the city of love.
Yeah.
Is Birmingham the city of love?
No.
Is Hemel Hempstead the city of love? Who knows? But that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, I think there's bands who've not really realised where they are. It's that kind of classic Hello Cleveland. Going back to Spinal Tap territory, of course, having the name of the town or the city you're in kind of taped to the floor so you can see where you are.
What's also interesting is where bands try to incorporate the name of the town in the song.
Yeah. That's trying to ingratiate yourself with the audience, of course.
Lights out in.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anywhere. Chicago, London, Paris, Munich. Everybody talk about pop music. Yeah, it's true, and I think it's quite cool. It's quite a cute thing, isn't it? Really, But it must be difficult when you get a long town name.
Yes, Merthyr Tydfil.
Lights out in Milton Keynes, Berwick upon Tweed, and so on.
When we were watching Geoff Tate, and Geoff's very theatrical, and a lot of the things, the call and response with the audience and. Shouting out, and he was waving and getting the crowd clapping hands and stuff. But one of the things that I found quite hilarious was the way in which the band came onto the stage. They had to go through the audience.
That's right.
So he played Rage for Order, had a little break, and he played Empire, and then it was like, "Thanks very much, everybody. Good night. We'll see you all again." And there was no way the band could. Do that thing of we'll go off stage and we'll get them shouting for an encore.
Yeah.
To get them. They couldn't do that last night because that would have meant Geoff and the band walking off stage, and they had to create that little corridor for them.
Yeah.
For obviously probably for COVID reasons, but they created that corridor for the band. They would have walked off. We'd have been shouting, "Come back, sing more," but they couldn't do that last night, and I like that because I'm not a big fan of waiting 15 minutes to get the band G'd up.
Yeah, that seems to have died out a lot over the last few years. I noticed that. In that you're right, back in the day, bands would disappear, finish their set, "Good night, everyone, see you next time." You think, no, you're coming back for an encore.
Yeah,
They go
because
through
you
the
haven't
motions.
played blah, blah, blah.
You haven't played the final countdown
Yeah.
or whatever the big numbers, and so you go through that little game of go off 5 minutes and whatever they do, have a quick cigarette or lie down or whatever, and then on they come after the audience is. You start, everyone's very enthusiastic, and then all of a sudden, the longer the time goes on, people's sort of enthusiasm dwindles, and the clapping gets, less intense, and the shouting and so on. And then on they come. But I think a lot of bands seem to have done away with that kind of charade of going off, and then coming back. Oh, hey, we're back! What a surprise! Here we are.
And it's the same band.
Who'd have thought we were going to do an encore like we did last night and the night before, and we'll do tomorrow night. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? That whole sort of game they play.
Yeah.
But luckily that's dying out quite a lot.
And the final thing for me around the pantomime of rock is, and when we were talking about this last night, Matt and I ingeniously called this Picks and Sticks.
Picks and Sticks.
Picks and
It's the new album.
Picks and Sticks, where you see some bands where they're forever chucking plectrums and picks out. Obviously, Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick.
Renowned for it, isn't it? If you go to a Cheap Trick gig and you don't come home with a pick, you're in the minority.
Exactly.
He chucks buckets of them out, doesn't he? I remember seeing the Scorpions a few years ago. Do you remember this? For some reason, Klaus Meine was throwing drumsticks out.
Yes, he hit
like confetti.
Because he maybe hit a couple of beats on a cowbell, and he was chucking it out.
I don't know whether that exists in any other genre where it's like, here's a pick, and in between songs just flick it.
Yeah.
Who did we see the other night? And I think I was watching Kiss sound check. It wasn't even a gig, and there was a footage on YouTube of Kiss sound checking. And Gene Simmons has got a dressing gown on.
That's right.
Anyway, they're doing the sound check, and I don't know how many people there, just like kind of the meet and greet. And he's flicking. I think he's trying to hit the audience. And of course, there was that story a few years ago, talking to Cheap Trick, where they were throwing, for some reason, they thought it'd be a good idea to throw vinyl albums out into the audience. And I think someone got injured by, getting hit in the face with a vinyl album. Yeah. It's quite lethal, as we saw in Shaun of the Dead. They're quite lethal when they're thrown at speed. Fend off zombies with a 12-inch single. Yeah. No, I agree with you. But at the end of the day, we kind of expect it, don't we?
We do.
We expect the foot on the monitor, even though these days, in-ear monitors are the thing. Maiden still use the front of stage wedges, the monitors, because they can put their foot on them.
Yeah.
There's no other reason really at the moment, and we like it. We like a sing along. If we go to see Whitesnake, we expect to sing along with "Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City." There's all these cliches that we kind of like roll our eyes at a little bit. At least my friend Paul was chuckling and rolling his eyes at the same time, which is quite a feat in itself. But we sort of expect it, and I for one, I've tried to pick if the sticks go up, I'm reaching for them. I've never caught one, mind you. I've been close.
I've got one.
Have you?
Mm-hmm. Jerry Cantrell. Oh no, not Jerry Cantrell. Jerry Gaskell from King's X.
Of course. Here we go. I thought we'd gone far too long without mentioning the great King's X. You notice I haven't mentioned Diamond Head yet in this podcast. No. Because they never do a rock cliche.
Doing that, okay.
No, never. But it is what it is, and we'll still keep going. And I think some of them have died out, but some will continue, and that's fine.
But it has been interesting, particularly in the last week, where we have seen, if you think about it, for you and I, 4 of our favourite frontmen doing the business. Kelly Hansen, Joey Tempest, Geoff Tate, and the mighty David Coverdale. And it was very, very interesting as we were talking about, the gigs themselves, how much of the pantomime of rock and the theatrical aspect of the show we saw in each of the performances from the band, be it at Joey Tempest at 7:15 at night or Geoff Tate last night at 10 to 11. They were all at it.
Yeah, that's fine. Long may they continue.
Absolutely.
So, Brian, last time I gave you the year 2013.
You did indeed.
A mere 9 years ago. I always say this. A mere 9 years ago. So, now, you obviously weren't, surely you weren't still at university then, were you?
I wasn't. At 44, I was not at university, young man.
No. No, you weren't. That's true. You just finished.
I just finished. I was in an internship.
Yeah, well, good on you. Good on you. So 2013, memories of 2013, Brian.
Well, a couple of episodes ago when we talked about 2002 being a fallow year for gigs.
I do.
I don't think there was a month that went by that I wasn't seeing a massive gig in 2013. I saw loads. It was and one of the reasons for that was in Glasgow. They opened up, the Hydro opened in 2013, and I saw a myriad of bands. So I saw Fleetwood Mac, I saw Alter Bridge on the Fortress tour. Might come back to that a little bit later. Yep. I was lucky enough to see the Who. Standout gigs for me in 2013. Lucky enough to see Last in Line. So the Last in Line, which was the remnants of the Ronnie James, of the Dio band with Vivian Campbell, Vinny Appice and Jimmy Bain whilst he was still alive. I got to see them in the Cat House in Glasgow, and it was the loudest gig ever. It was just Vivian, and just they sounded awesome. So that was in 2013. But I would probably say in 2013, my standout gig of 2013 was Rush. I got to see Rush at the Scottish Exhibition and Conference Centre in Glasgow, and they were promoting the Clockwork Angels album. And for a band who were every time I've seen Rush, Matt, and you've seen them quite a few times as well as I have, the spectacle of Rush just got better and better and better. And it was probably the best lineup, the best sound, the best set list that I ever saw Rush put on. And yeah, for all of the bands that I saw, Alice in Chains, The Who, Fleetwood Mac, all, Springsteen, Rush were just they were just a level above, and the musicianship, etc. So those to me, gigs wise in 2013, that was it. What about you? Gigs wise?
Did you spend any time at home? In 2013.
I think I had there was maybe a week in May.
Yeah, same for me in a way. I went to see Rush in London. I think that was the last time I saw them, and last time I will see them, sadly.
Yeah.
No more. Soundgarden came to London. Probably the only place they played on their UK tour, which is fine by me. Fronted by the great Chris Cornell, of course. We've just passed 5 years since
we have.
He passed away. Tremendous singer, tremendous frontman. Good gig. Bit like going to see Pearl Jam in that they didn't necessarily play the hits. I don't think they played Black Hole Sun, for example.
Really?
Yeah. Which is a bit like going to see Europe and them not playing the Final Countdown, of course. Or Diamond Head not playing Am I Evil. See what I did there?
That's what you did.
Yeah, tremendous Soundgarden. Very, very busy night at Brixton Academy in September. Very warm night. Also saw a band called Tracer. Now, Tracer were an Australian three-piece that sort of came and went, sadly, but really, really good band. Had a couple of albums that came out in the mid 2000s or so, and saw them a couple of times in London. But I think they just found that the viability of touring from Australia, which you can understand is a big undertaking. Just to even get to Europe is a huge cost of time and effort and so on.
Yeah.
Sadly, they didn't carry on beyond about 2015. I finally saw the very excellent Winery Dogs. Again, I think their only UK date was, of course, in London, which was again fine.
Good for you. Podcaster in the North goes nay.
Oh, there you go. What can I say? Featuring the magnificent Mike Portnoy, Richie Kotzen, and your man
Billy Sheehan.
Billy Sheehan on the bass.
That's from Mr. Big, I believe.
Indeed. Again, come full circle. I knew his name. I was just taking a breath. Right. Thank you, but yeah, thanks. So yeah, it was a good year for gigs, wasn't it? Tremendous.
Good year for you, and good year for albums as well too. a couple of albums I'll shout out in 2013. Biffy Clyro. Biffy Clyro released their 6th studio album, which was called Opposites. Now, Opposites was a double album, which was fantastic. A couple of the standout tracks on it, the big single, or certainly the song that resonates with me the most, is Black Chandelier. Opposite itself was a great song, but it's a double album and all written by Simon Neil, and for me, it's just set them on that. You know, they now are a band who can quite easily. They're a band that can quite easily headline Reading, headline Download, you know. Whereas maybe 5-6 years ago, for an occasional fan like me, I would have thought, are they really big enough to be headlining big festivals? But the catalogue and the strength of the material and the Opposites album was the real start for me of just cementing their reputation as great songwriters, great musicians, and obviously a really, really good live act. I'm going to see them later on this year. So Biffy's Opposites album, I'll stick a few tracks on the playlist. Daughtry, which was a great album. This was the 4th album by the American rock band called Daughtry. Chris Daughtry's the lead singer. I don't think he won American Idol, but he went very well. I remember watching American Idol on ITV, and he did a fantastic version of Wanted Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi. But they released Baptized, which is a 4th studio album. The lead-off track on the album is a super song called Waiting for Superman. Really, really good. Daughtry, you often find Daughtry in the early in the 2000s and 2010s, supporting bands like Nickelback, that kind of alt metal, sort of modern American rock. Daughtry would come to the UK. Played a lot of theatres. I saw Daughtry a couple of times in the ABC in Glasgow. A very nice following, but just has never been able to break out of into playing the likes of the Wembley's, arenas, etc. But Baptized is a very, very good album, and those are probably the 2 big shout out albums for me in 2013. How about you?
Well, as you said, it was a good year for albums. You mentioned Alterbridge earlier. They brought out the probably my favourite album of theirs, Fortress. I know you're not a big fan, but I mean, some tremendous songs in it. Cry of Achilles, Addicted to Pain, Waters Rising, featuring Mark Tremonti on lead vocals. Farther Than the Sun is a great song. I mean, they put them on the old playlist.
I think I maybe have to go back, and maybe I had a bad cup of tea or a bad sandwich that time when I was listening to it, because
it can happen.
Yeah.
And also Sammy Hagar, we've mentioned a few times. Sammy Hagar put out the Sammy Hagar and Friends album. And indeed, he did have a few of his rock buddies playing with him. Kid Rock's on there, a song called Knockdown, Drag Out. A version of Depeche Mode's Personal Jesus, featuring Neil Schon.
Everybody's done that. The Leopard do that as well.
I know. And it's not my favourite song by any means. But yeah, Def Leppard did a version as well, didn't they? Yeah. Did a remake of Space Station Number 5, the old Montrose song. Well, we're checking out. I mean, the ageless, timeless Sammy Hagar, who's still going strong, of course. Still doing stuff with his friends.
Now the Circle.
Indeed.
They call it Circle.
Indeed.
It would be remiss of me. I know you talked about those naughty boys, the Winery Dogs, who only played in their UK tour in London.
Yeah.
Probably Shepherd's Bush Empire.
Where was it? No, it was the Forum, Kentish Town, actually.
Oh, right, okay. But it's worthwhile giving a shout out to the Winery Dogs debut album itself. Really, really good. And it's just the three, for 3 guys who got together by accident, or the fact that John Sykes couldn't really commit to working with Mike Portnoy, because Mike Portnoy at that point, having left Dream Theater, was doing a lot of projects. He was playing with Neil Morse. He obviously did a stint with Twisted Sister.
That's right.
Yeah, he did and he was playing with a band I don't know much about, but I know have. You might be able to keep me right in this, whether they actually headlined Download Avenged Sevenfold.
I think they did.
Did they?
Headline 1 year, yeah.
Yeah, I think Mike Portnoy might have been. Certainly, I know that Mike, whenever they lost their drummer, Avenged Sevenfold, Mike Portnoy sat in on the drums and played with. So Mike was doing a lot of stuff, and he's very busy, and he likes to work very, very fast. And he was going to do a project with John Sykes, and when John Sykes didn't commit to the project, Eddie Trunk who's an American disc jockey, recommended Richie Kotzen, and Richie came in, having worked with Billy Sheehan, latterly of Mr. Big, and both of them had worked together. They got together with Richie, Mike, and put out The Winery Dogs, which is a fantastic album. And even the second album that they brought out was fantastic as well too. So a good album to shout out, and a band who, if we ever go around and talk about 2015 again on years, Matt, they probably one of the gigs of my life in 2015 would have been Pearl Jam at Leeds, and they were supporting the 2024 or the 2013. Thank you. The 2013 album Lightning Bolt. So Lightning Bolt from Pearl Jam is a fantastic album. I know there's a track on that album that you love as well too.
Oh yeah, Sirens. Absolute. So
a fantastic year for new releases and some live gigs. So good year for 2013. And I will give you an equal. I know this is going to be a great year, and I can't believe we've got this year left. I'm going to give you 1996 in the next episode.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I remember it well.
Do you?
Not really. I'm sure I will when I do a bit of research. Very good. So, Brian, that brings us, of course, to everyone's favourite part of the old podcast. As you know, I was walking through Edinburgh yesterday, and this guy came up to me in a very broad Scottish accent. I won't repeat it, or at least try to emulate his accent.
Okay.
Basically, the gist of what he was saying to me was that his favourite part of the podcast is Hidden Gem Time, and apparently that's widespread throughout Scotland.
Is it really?
Yeah, indeed. So, what can I say? Everyone, at least Scotland, are behind me, so to speak.
Okay. Well.
So, yes, that brings us to everyone's favourite part.
Hidden Gem Time.
Thank you, Lola. Love your voice. So what you got for us, Brian?
So I'm learning. See this podcasting malarkey that we do?
Yep.
There's been a couple of times over the last 31 episodes where I may have recommended an album and gone, here's a great hidden gem. And then in the streaming services that I use to play music, the album isn't on. So I'm recommending something that I can't put in the playlist, which I think's really silly.
Is a bit, really.
It's a bit silly.
Short-sighted.
It is. And it's shown that I'm not preparing, not thinking about.
Well, I think we all knew that.
So
I've seen you running around the last 24 hours trying to think of ideas and albums, and I've seen the lack of preparation in action, my friend. Don't worry about that.
So, an album that became available on one of the streaming services, on Spotify recently, is going to be my hidden gem for this episode, because then I can put some tracks up on the playlist.
Oh, I see.
See,
Gotcha.
it is. So my and you know this singer. So the band, without further ado, who I am recommending as my hidden gem for this episode, is the debut self-titled album from Steelheart. Do you remember Steelheart?
I do remember the name. Yeah.
So Steelheart, I was still listening to Tommy Vance on the Friday Rock show, and I was at university at this time. This was in 1990.
Okay.
yeah. So in 1990, Steelheart brought out their debut album, and I'll put some fantastic. There's tracks on it like "I'll Never Let You Go," "Sheila," "She's Gone," and Miljenko Matjevich.
Yes.
Forgive me if I've pronounced the lead singer's name wrong, but he can hit some notes. They're very, very in that early 90s glam metal era where you had guys who could hit high notes. Steelheart were one of those bands, and I bought the debut. I remember hearing the single "I'll Never Let You Go" on the Friday Rock Show. Went out and bought the album. In fact, I bought the album in cassette.
Did you?
I think I bought that, and it is absolutely fantastic. You and I know the lead singer very, very well because he was Mark Wahlberg's vocal.
Oh, that's right.
In the song "We All Die Young" from the film Rockstar.
Rockstar. Yeah, his voice double.
His voice double. So I will put a few tracks in Steelheart. It's glam metal, 1990. I love the album.
Okay. Whatever became of Steelheart then?
They're still going. They're one of those American bands who still play in America. I'm not quite sure. Mickey, I think he calls himself now. They still play in the States. He's got a good social media presence. I haven't seen any hide nor hair of them possibly coming across to the UK or Europe. But yeah, still about. And any of the recent posts that I have seen of the band, he's still singing very, very, very well. So still going, but no new product coming out, no albums coming out. But the debut album, like a lot of the bands that certainly I like, it's hard to beat the debut album. And when you hear tracks like "I'll Never Let You Go," "Sheila," She's Gone's just brilliant. It's a very, very strong album. There you go.
Good.
Steelheart,
Yeah.
my hidden gem. What about you, mate?
Look forward to it. So I've got a documentary actually. You know, I like a documentary.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do indeed. And this is a fairly recent documentary from 2019. It's called Oil City Confidential. It's about the British band Dr. Feelgood.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you grew up in the 70s, as you and I did, well, you know, we were young in the 70s.
Exactly.
Let's just say that.
We were, yes.
Dr. Feelgood were one of those bands that came up quite regularly. They had quite a few hits. And they were born out of the British pub rock scene. Now, that was a phenomenon in the 70s where bands essentially played their own material in what was, in those days, a very thriving network of pubs around the UK that played live music or allowed bands to play. Sadly, those over time, those pubs and clubs have diminished. Mm-hmm. But in the 70s, it was a real kind of purple patch for those pub rock bands, and it is quite a sort of a well-known
genre.
Yeah. And out of that was born bands like the Motors and Nick Lowe, thank you. Nick Lowe, Rockpile, Dave Edmunds came out of it. Dire Straits came out of the pub rock scene. If you look at early footage of them, very ordinary, good sort of blues-based
Eddie and the Hot Rods
bands, Eddie and the Hot Rods, and so on. And Dr. Feelgood really very much came into that category. Formed in 1971, they came from a place in Essex called Canvey Island. Now, essentially, this documentary, Oil City Confidential, revolves around their roots in Canvey Island in the late 60s, early 70s, fronted by the late Lee Brillo, who was a phenomenal frontman, phenomenal singer. Sadly, died very young of cancer. And also in the band, Wilco Johnson, John Sparks on bass, and the excellently named The Big Figure on drums.
I never knew that.
John Martin his nickname was The Big Figure. Yeah, the band, essentially Dr. Feelgood still exist. There are no original members. Wilko Johnson's got his own career. As I say, Lee Brillo's passed away in 1994, sadly. But yeah, tremendous band. And the documentary is really, really interesting. As I say, it's got interviews with the remaining band members, friends, manager from that time, and footage of Canvey Island in Essex, which is a very interesting and unique place to live. But I think on the old podcast, we've got to put on Milk and Alcohol, of course, Roxette, Back in the Night, She Does It Right. I mean, there were tremendous rock songs that still stand the test of time. I was always a kind of like if you like, a passive fan of Dr. Feelgood, but watching this documentary made me think, there's such a good band, good vibe, great singer in Lee Brillo. I mean, a hugely charismatic character, very interesting character, and as I say, sadly passed away far too young.
Norman Roy, who plays with Wilko Johnson, when you're thinking about that pub rock genre, there are bands that would have stayed in it, and then there's bands who kind of broke out of it. And when I think of Norman, with him being in Ian Dury and the Blockheads, you would have, Ian Dury started out playing the pubs, etc., and then broke out in, with Orange and the Lemons, etc., and obviously some of the great hits that they had. It just makes you think that England, in general, in the mid to late 70s. You had punk, you had pub rock, you had,
with the burgeoning kind of new wave of British metal.
Heavy metal. So, and playing, we've talked about, and I've joked about, Iron Maiden playing the Ruskin Arms, etc. It was a pub, the pub scene was vibrant and a good learning ground for bands to learn the trade, to then make the step up. And I'm not sure the artist in the last couple of weeks, but there's a few big artists that have come out and said, the dwindling smaller venues now is actually not giving bands the opportunity to learn their trade properly, to then be able to sort of go through the gears, so that whenever you're ready to hit the the theatres and the clubs and theatres and then arenas, where are you learning your pantomime? Where are you learning your tricks of the trade?
Well, it's true, actually. Yeah, you don't go straight from, forming a band with your mates to playing at, Wembley Arena. So you need that kind of almost spawning ground, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
And it's sadly disappearing, which is why I said to you last night we were in Bannerman's in Edinburgh, that it was a very old school type venue,
wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of a back room of the pub, small stage, very kind of small and 200 people, but almost old school, wasn't it? And sadly those days have gone. There are still a few pubs dotted around that do, live music and so on, but they have dwindled. But it's interesting looking back, and as I say, looking at that documentary Oil City Confidential, it did bring back some memories of that sort of era and the bands that came out of that whole scene. So check it out, boys and girls.
Good.
So, Brian, that's it.
That's it.
Time for me to go. I'm leaving on a jet plane.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the man who says we have no budget, his chartered jets.
Yes, it's I'm getting a helicopter from here to the airport.
Oh, are you? Okay, right.
And then I'm getting a limo from the helicopter to the plane.
Right, okay.
And same at the other end, basically.
Exactly. Is this all sponsored by us?
All on our ticket, on our dollar.
Sorry, is Kelvin paying for this? Does he
Kelvin,
know this?
the social media guy, and our wellness consultant,
a wellness guru.
No, he's sadly he's got no view of the budget. He doesn't cover the budgets.
Oh, okay.
I take care of that.
Fine. You're all right, Jack.
Which is why we haven't got one. We should give a shout out to Kelvin, the social media guy. They're helping out with tweets and creative ideas.
Yes, exactly.
And that is indeed his name, as we established a few podcasts ago. Kelvin, the creative / social media guy.
Well-being guru.
Brackets, wellness consultant, close brackets.
Yeah.
No, what is that, a wellness consultant, anyway?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
We should ask him.
What does he do?
Yeah. Anyway,
Yes.
for those people who are maybe tuning in to this, could be your first episode that you listen to the podcast.
Where have you been?
Where have you been? Where have you been? But we are on all normal streaming platforms. You'll be able to find the show on Spotify, Amazon. Hit us up a review. Leave some comments. It just helps out with the show. We're on Facebook. You'll find we keep ourselves up to date on Facebook.
We're on Twitter, remember?
Oh, we're on Twitter as well too. What's our handle?
30 episodes. You still can't remember. At FTAT Pod.
Yeah.
At
And we've
FTAT POD.
POD. And we've got merch as well too now.
Yeah, we have got merch.
We have.
Yeah, we're going to maybe start offering that.
Yeah,
Say.
mugs and t-shirts and tote bags and, you know.
Hang on a minute. Tote bags.
Fridge magnets.
Fridge magnets, hats,
Yeah,
scarves,
absolutely.
underwear.
Yeah,
everything.
and if you can choose if you want to have just a picture of Matt with hidden gem times on the back.
Yeah.
Or if you want just a picture of me
On the front of your pants.
No. So yes, so we're please subscribe, leave us a review.
It's a glowing review.
A glowing review. Tell your friends. And thank you for everybody so far who's listened to the show. Over the last couple of weeks, we have hit over 3,000 listens to the show. So thanks to everybody who's been listening and downloading and telling all of your friends. And we will see you next time. Sadly, I think our next show will be back to virtual again. You'll be back down south.
Yeah, but it's been fun. Thanks
has.
for having me, Brian.
Pleasure.
Nice to be here. Nice to do this in person.
Exactly.
Thanks a lot, everyone. See you all soon.
Rock on.
Bye.
Bye.
For those about to pod, We Salute You is a Maley Rogers media production.